Hey, I want to take the time to welcome everybody to my channel. I got a drawing today that I want you to just sit back, relax, and watch. And then if you want to draw along with me, go get your sketchbooks, get your pencils. Doesn't matter how expensive the materials are that you're using. You could be using something like the back of an envelope, a number two pencil that you found under your couch. It doesn't matter. With me, I'm using a Tombow 4B pencil. I typically sketch with Faber-Castell, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to change it up for a little bit. Maybe for a month or two, I'll draw with a different pencil. And then I'm drawing on moleskin paper. So this, yes, it is a little bit pricier of a sketchbook, but over the years, I've just fallen in love with the smoothness of moleskin and just how it feels. So today is going to be totally unscripted. It's just a raw 52-minute sketch, maybe a little longer, because I think I added some details in and then I wasn't recording, but it wasn't that much. It was like maybe a minute or two. But it's just a creature that you see me form through gestural lines. And I did have an idea in mind of what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted an aquatic creature. And when I started to draw the long speed form strokes, it just so happened that the front of it started to look like a dolphin at first. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to, I don't know, protrude that jaw a little bit and make it look like a whale. I do adjust the drawing every now and then to make sure it's in frame. So as I'm drawing in the upper portion of the screen, sometimes it is out of focus, and I'm so carried away with drawing that I didn't look at my screen on the camera. So I'm sorry if it's just a little blurry. There we go. See, I just moved it down. But anyway, all right, so let's get into what I'm doing and how I approach creature design. Now, if you're sketching along with me, what I am doing is I'm keeping my pencil, or let me rephrase that. I'm keeping my hand about 99% off of the paper. I'm sketching loosely. So the majority of my pencil strokes are coming from my shoulder when I do the big swooping motions. And then something that I like to talk about often when I'm doing creature design is I focus on the head first, and then any details that I put in the head, they slowly start to trickle backwards into the neck, into the shoulder area. So the reason I do that is because whenever I'm designing a character or creature, all of the emotion, the character, the personality, everything usually happens in the face. Now, if I'm drawing a creature that doesn't have eyeballs, or it's so alien looking that you can't really tell where it's looking from, there's still some opportunities to put personality in there. So, for example, scarring, age, you know, spikes, bumps, imperfections in the skin, crooked teeth, things like that really add up if you want to make the character feel believable and relatable. So I don't know how anybody is going to relate to something that looks like a mosasaur, but we'll see. All right. Yeah, I started to like the sketch more and more as I got going. Every time I draw, yeah, I go through phases where I question myself. Like, is this correct? Is this anatomically believable? Even though I'm making up shapes and still trying to think of a whale skull, I don't quite remember off the top of my head what it looks like. But I'm trying my best here to just sit up straight, which those of you slouching right now, sit up. I know some of you are slouching, or a lot of you are. Second thing that I want you to do is make sure you're not tilting your head to the side to draw. It's a habit that we get into, and it's comfortable. I mention this quite often. Tilting our head when we draw kind of helps us think more. It puts us deeper in thought about the drawings that we're putting on paper. The problem with it is it's such a hard habit to break that our perspective is screwed up if we tilt our head, because what we think is horizontal is not horizontal anymore, or vertical, or if something is straight up and down like a tree or a tooth or a bone, and all of a sudden it's leaning and we don't know it until we turn our sketchbooks upright again. So just make sure that you're sitting up straight, you have good posture when you sketch. Keep the lines very loose. See how light I'm keeping these lines. That's crucial, folks. It's very crucial that you keep a light hand until you know for a certain that the shapes and the motion and the overall structure of the character or creature is what you want. And then you start putting shading down. So for example, that very pronounced dark round eye that I have in there, followed by the mouth crease right underneath it. Okay, it's a very strange looking jaw. I knew when I put that down, I was happy with it. It's a gut feeling. You know, when you guys are drawing something and it just feels right, you know you came up with something really good. That's the way it felt when I did that mouth crease. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Okay, sometimes it's you completely screwed up and you're like, oh, this sucks. How am I going to fix it? Natural tendency is to go to the eraser, and you definitely don't want to do that. All right, so here I'm starting to think more and more about the areas surrounding the mouth, the jaw shape, and that the whole top of the palate, bottom of the chin, and all that. I'm starting to think about what the teeth are going to look like. You know, what teeth are going to stick out. So here it's obviously like a warthog. I'm starting to think about the way the bottom jaw is shaped, and if there's enough space in the jaw to have a tooth like that. So another point that I want to make is when you're sketching creatures and your creature mouths have huge teeth, huge sharp teeth, especially if they're long, ask yourself if the teeth roots fit inside the jaw that you're making, top or bottom jaw. If it's a massive tooth but a small jaw, chances are you messed up. Okay, so a perfect example of a mouth to study is a smilodon, okay, the saber-toothed tiger. Look at the way that the tusks or teeth are shaped. They're curved because the curvature of the teeth and the roots are curving up into the skull, so you can get away with a bigger tooth. Okay? These kind of things that you really have to think about, because those of you out there right now listening to this and you're an aspiring concept artist and you want to get a job in this industry, your work is going to have to be passed on to the 3D department. And if your work isn't believable, then the sculptors are going to come back with more questions than answers, and you don't want to do that. See, your whole job is to make everybody else's life easier. Okay, you're at the front line of offense here. So your concepts, you're setting the stage for everybody else in the pipeline to have a job. Just remember that. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of pressure because it is, but at the same time, you know what you're capable of. So you want to explain these concepts that you're doing as good as possible. So the sketch I'm doing here, like the details that I'm putting in, this is something that I would turn into a visual effects company. You know, when I did work for The Sea Beast on Netflix, I remember back in 2018 working with director Chris Williams, and we were designing Red, the brickleback, the yellow warbler, and that turtle creature that was on the ceiling in the palace. Those of you that have seen The Sea Beast. So we were sketching and everything, and I had to come back with aquatic creatures with this much detail right here, because Red was the first creature that we were designing together. So, and it was a lot of fun because we were going back and forth about nostril holes and, you know, how Jacob and the other characters had to sit inside the nostril hole and the nostril could close because of the storm coming and they wouldn't drown inside there. Like all these things you have to think about. So with creature design, as crazy as you can make the shapes of these things, okay, it's a creature, it's not on Earth, but at the same time, you have to base these bone structures and the muscles in reality so that we, the viewer, have something to relate to. If you come up with something so crazy, it's gonna we're gonna have a hard time resonating with it. But you can pull it off. You can. And like for example, the concept of the alien life form in the movie Life with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds, which, in my opinion, is a very underrated sci-fi horror movie. That alien in there is totally alien. I mean, we're talking shapes that are not normal to see, but it's beautifully designed. I don't remember who designed that creature. I'm usually pretty good at remembering that stuff. So if you're listening to this right now, beautiful, beautiful design. Thank you. Okay, what am I doing here? I'm laying down several passes of value. So whenever I do this, you'll notice that under the shading, I'm getting happier and happier with the shape of the skull. The bumps, the ridges, the slight indication of wrinkles and muscles within the jaw. I'm getting happy with it. So what I do is I start to put down a layer of graphite just to test the waters a little bit, just to see what it looks like a little grayed out. And if it's working, then, I keep going. This is a totally random decision, and it was on a whim. I risked messing this entire head up. Okay, so the main eyeball is the big dark one at the lower portion of the jaw. Okay, and then I make those extra tiny little holes right there as secondary and tertiary eyeballs. Originally, they weren't going to be that. See, the skull placement, like the giant wide forehead that it has, they started out as minor indents within the skull. So I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to put some value there just to see what's going to happen. And then I thought, I already have that little divot sketched in there. Why not? Let's just make it an eyeball. And then it happened. I got to be very careful though. So I'm very carefully adding some more value in that area because, again, the confidence was building within that section. Look, folks, I've been drawing a long time, okay? And it doesn't matter how well I know a subject matter. I'm not confident about certain drawings that I make. It's just inevitable. I think I'm going to screw it up. And, it took me years to realize that erasers are probably the worst things that you could ever use on a sketch. Because in the old days, if I was sketching this particular drawing right now, I would jump on that eraser in a heartbeat. It'd be like, don't like the chin, don't like how pointed it is, don't like that eyeball, don't like how dark it is, like blah, 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 blah. It's just the inner voice telling myself this drawing sucks. And like Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. So just, take it as you will. Some people believe in that quote. Some people don't. I do. So I just had to keep building on this. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I didn't go to that eraser. So another crucial lesson that I want to teach you all right now, and as you watch this drawing unfold, if you're sketching something and you like it, and all of a sudden you do something incorrectly or you think is wrong, you're like, oh, the anatomy's off, that muscle looks dumb, whatever, and you think you messed it up, please know that mistakes can turn to opportunities. Okay, it could be a happy accident, something really cool. So, by the way, my upstairs neighbor, I think they have a washer and dryer in their unit. So if you can hear the vibrations through the microphone, that's what that is. Okay, so like I said, this is totally unedited, no music, nothing. You're just hearing me talk about my drawing and watching me draw. But anyway, here I go. Now is the time to put in some wrinkles. So the foundation that I'm laying, foundation as in the graphite, the shading, that I laid across that jaw and parts of the eyeball right now. Any wrinkles that I put over top of that, all of the value is going to be taken care of in between the wrinkles. That's the beautiful thing about it. These little circles, half circles that I'm putting on the jaw, these are imperfections in the skin, fat cells collecting, like multiple layers of, or multiple epidermal layers of, not epidural, oh my gosh. I can't even talk today, I don't know what's up. I've been talking all day, I've had meetings and all that. But anyway, there's a lot going on under that skin. So I just wanted to make sure that I got all that in there. And then this was another decision that was just last minute. 2 teeth coming off that. It just seemed right. I'm looking at these shapes of, the front, the middle, and the back of that top of the skull and then the jaw, and I'm like, you know what? That part could probably use some extra teeth, because if the mouth opened and that particular part of the skull was, the jaw was about to bite down, they could possibly keep food from escaping the mouth. You never know. All right. Now I'm starting to add in some values where I know some big wrinkles are located. This is why I pay so much attention to the eyeballs. Because this, to me, this just totally resonates with me and anybody that would want to look at a character and figure out, who are they? Like, what are they? Are they mean? Are they nice? Do they look nice? I mean, when we look at this creature, I don't think it's a nice one. It's a predator, okay? An apex predator in the sea that it swims in, and it's just giving off that vibe. So I played with it. So here I'm starting to figure out where the muscle attachments are within that jaw. I will be adding a core shadow in later on. So if you're curious as to how to add in a core shadow, just watch me do it. It has to be layered. You can't do a core shadow the first pass. It's going to look awful. Those of you out there that know what it feels like to render a cylinder, a cone, and a sphere with that core shadow on that rounded part, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to finesse that in there. Now there's a big, interesting part coming up where the top of the head is all kinds of messy. And I was getting really worried about it because I was thinking, well, I'm probably going to need my eraser up there. And I almost did. But then I just concentrated, took a deep breath, and I made it. I fixed it, I guess you could say. This was another tricky part. So down there under the jaw, I'm slowly adding in bumps similar to a whale. You'll see the whales, like the bumps on the top and bottom jaws of it. But I started to add some more aquatic references to there. And this is when I really start to put in the values on that chin or the jaw. I changed direction. You can see my hand switched right there. The other thing that I do, and I'm sure a lot of artists do this, is when you're focusing on one area, you get an idea in an immediate adjacent area. So I started putting shadows in on that jaw, and I'm like, oh, I really like this. This feels great. Okay, wait. I'm going to move up to the mouth crease. So here's me committing to the core shadow. I want to make sure that feels like a giant set of muscles on that jaw, because it is a very powerful bite that creature has. And see how I physically turn my sketchbook too. That's crucial, folks. So if you're drawing along with me and you want to keep the sketch comfortable as far as the pencil strokes that you're using, it's okay to turn the sketchbook, because if you can keep your hand or your arm operating in the same comfortable angle, regardless of how you turn the sketchbook, your drawings are most likely going to look a lot better. Now, there is something to be said about practicing different directions. That just comes with drawing and putting in the mileage of drawing for years and years and years. Okay, you'll get used to it. Like for me, I hate the angle because I'm right-handed. I don't like drawing lines from the lower right to the upper left. I hate that arc. I don't like it. So what I'll do is I'll just turn my sketchbook so I can draw that angle in more comfortably. I think this is when I start the top portion of the head. I really start to get annoyed. I almost stopped my camera here in a minute. I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I worked through it. I think I'm avoiding the spot too. But I do get to it, and then I work through it. Because what I have to do is I have to take care of the tusks also. The tusks originally weren't going to be in there, but I was happy that I put those in. Okay. Comment below if you're having a lot of fun just doodling today, just drawing. Consider this your illustration day. If I had a choice of what medium to use, because I'm on Photoshop every day too, I would sketch with a regular sketch pad and a pencil and a heartbeat for the rest of my life. Because there's nothing more freeing than actually drawing on paper, hearing that graphite, having to sharpen the pencil because you feel like you worked for something. There's no Control Z, nothing. So it feels really good. Here I go. You guys ever get to that area where you're definitely not happy with it and you avoid it at all costs? Like those of you out there listening right now and you suck at drawing feet, so what do? You put plants in front of the feet, especially if it's a creature. Oh, I'm totally guilty of that. Or I'll hide the hands behind a piece of clothing, or if it's like a female and she has a cloak on or like a long dress, guess where the hands go? Behind the dress. Yeah, I know, I'm totally guilty of it. So if you saw what I did there, I deliberately shaded past the head into the background. That's atmospheric perspective. I'm putting in the fog effect. Okay, and here's where I just lay in very fast outline of the other fin that shows up on the other side of the body. So you'll see here, everywhere past that neck, I am suggestive with it and nothing more. So thousands of people are going to see this drawing that I'm doing here, and thousands of people are going to see different possibilities with that body. But I do know that I at least have to take the head and blend it in with some of the neck. Okay, because the selling point for this drawing is the head. And whenever you're shading, you want to make sure that you're shading in a large enough area. Okay, tiny little areas and shading and you try to blend, yes, it is possible, totally. I love doing it. I did it for the face. But when you have to cover a large area, such as the creature's hulking neck and the back, the fins, and all that, try to cover as big of area as you can in one single go when you're shading. It's going to pay off because everything stays the same smoothness, especially if you hit a rhythm with that shading. Have you ever noticed that when you enter that flow state when you're shading and it looks really good and you just keep going and it just keeps looking good? That's a sign. Don't stop. Don't stop. Now, you will have to stop eventually because your arm isn't going to bend anymore or you run out of paper space and all of that. But, there's a sweet spot. This is when I'm working on top of that head. And I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going on. And I see these little bits here and there that I keep adding to it. I'm like, okay. I'm going to go back to it. We'll see what happens. Oh, boy. I love drawing this stuff. Oh, by the way, I've been experimenting with adding music to my videos, taking music off. I almost drew something with just like dark techno going, and I thought that would be kind of sweet at first, and then I realized that the majority of my audience probably gets annoyed at music. All right, there we go. That tusk, that dang tusk. Because what's happening is I turned my sketchbook as upright as I could so that it shows to you guys as vertically as possible. The way my tripod was set up, the way my desk is, I have to tilt my sketchbook a little bit. So the drawing is going to look a little flat. And if you stick around, I eventually do a flyover of my drawing. So you can see the full thickness of it and like how wide the head actually is to the creature. The other thing to sell depth is I put a core shadow in on the creature's left side of the head, over there by that tooth and the chin and the nose and everything, because I want the contrast to play off of the moleskin paper. That's why if you see in between that black tooth that I put in there and the bottom of the chin, you can see some of the graphite just fading off into the cream color of the paper. That was deliberate. That's atmospheric perspective. It's almost like the creature's floating through fog or something along those lines. Okay, get some cool shapes in there for the skin. If I find an area where I like putting in details, I won't become married to that idea right away. Like I'll put some details in, then I'll shade on top of it to blend it in more, and then I'll go back to the details because it's all about layering. So those of you that have horrible patience or the patience of a goldfish, please know that if you spend a little bit of extra time on an area like this one right here, look at that. See all those tiny little ovals that I put on top of that head? That's the core shadow. That's the whole top of the head where I'm going to screw this up. But I had to work through it. If you're drawing right now and you're approaching an area where you have to work through it, please know if you keep the lines light and do not commit to detail until you are confident about it, you're going to feel so much better about it. And I did. Eventually I did, because it did work. The shading was kept at small, tiny little ovals. So when I move quickly like this and I'm starting to shade upwards, it's actually flattened ovals, like ellipses. Sometimes I'll go back and forth in a straight line, and I'll just, I'll lower my hand, lower the angle and everything. I also try not to be as technical as I can about all of this stuff that I'm doing. I've read some comments where people think I talk too much when I draw. They only want something that's 5 minutes long. And I'm like, well, if you only want to put in 5 minutes, you're only going to get 5 minutes worth of skill, and that's it. So please know that I'm trying to be as thorough as I can, telling you exactly how I draw. Because I feel like if I work you guys through these sketches, you'll be able to understand my thought process rather than just reading it from a book. There's nothing wrong with reading it from a book. I just, I feel this feels more raw doing it like this. And I'm hoping that by watching this video right now, you're trying some of these techniques too. Like the building up of values that I'm doing right now with the shading. Anybody can do this, folks. That is not talent. It's obsessive learning until it just becomes second nature. See how I turned my sketchbook, but I kept my pencil the same angle? Because I like holding my hand like this and shading. Turn it again. Angle's going to stay the same. Look at that. See, it might have changed a tiny bit, but other than that, it's pretty much stayed the same. All right, now that I'm starting to get the structure down for the head, I'm starting to venture on the outside of it, and that is connecting the neck tissue and the muscles and the skin and everything to the jaw that I have. So I really have to think about what the jaw bone is doing in the back right there. The head isn't really fleshed out yet. I'm not sure about the anatomy. I'm not sure about even if I'm following a whale skull to my knowledge. Okay. I'm not looking at reference for this when I'm just winging everything. So I'm making up a lot of stuff, but I'm also trying to recall from memory some of the skull structure of a whale. I think for the most part, it's going to work. And any part that I'm not confident on, I cover it up with thicker skin or maybe a bulbous section where there's fat storage under the skin, or just trying to change up the overall structure of the body in areas where I'm not that confident in. All right, and then here I'm focusing on the eyeball because remember what I said in the beginning about focusing on the eye, trying to bring out the personality, the character, the age. I'm thinking, you know what, this thing is probably 100, 200 years old. It's not from Earth, so I'm just making it up. But it's old, it's seen some things, it's been through a lot, and it's not scared of anything. So I was putting some age around those eyes there. And this is when I start to float around to other parts of the body just to give a slight indication of some values, some places where I probably could put in shading. And it also helps fill the area. Now you can see that of the head that I was shading, it doesn't just abruptly stop in the back of the jaw, because that wouldn't really make sense. And I want to bring a lot of atmosphere to the sketch. I want there to be this sense of, hey, this is a living, breathing beast that is, even though it's drawn on a 2D surface, it is living within a 3D world. It could come out at me and bite me or swim by me at any second. That's one of the things that I'm constantly thinking of whenever I draw. It's how can I make this sucker feel as real as possible? How can I make it look like it's traveling through atmosphere, which is why I use the sfumato technique. Those of you that are in fine art, you know what that is. It's a combination of fuzzy, out of focus line work coupled with crisp, nice, detailed line work, and you juxtapose them together and it forms sfumato, and it helps a lot with atmosphere. All right, so under the face right there, I'm happy with it. It's also the neck. There's not a lot of stuff going on under there that I actually want to draw attention to, other than, hey, the whole jaw, the whole head is forming a cast shadow on that area, so I'm going to make it a little darker down there. And a lot of these little ridges that I'm putting in, these were more of just winging it, because all of the shading that I was putting in that jaw, if you can see from where you're sitting right now on your computer screen or your tablet or your TV or whatever, each shadow is forming a new ridge, a new indent, a new cluster of wrinkles that could exist. So I'm just playing along with what I have in there, not giving a crap if I'm messing up or not, because there is no messing up at this point unless I draw a huge X across the drawing, which I've done before. Don't do that. So if you're drawing something right now and you don't really like what you're drawing, sit up straight, take a deep breath. If it helps, set your sketchbook down, especially if you have not built up the stamina to even last this long when you're sketching. Set it down, go grab a bite to eat, go outside, take a walk, come back, look at your sketch with a fresh set of eyes. Okay. One of the things that I used to do, and I kick myself now that I did this, but whenever I was drawing something and I was doing a good job, and I was so happy that I would get so elated that I would stop drawing and I would just play Halo. I just don't ask me why. I guess it was a maturity thing. It was, I don't know, my attention span when it came to drawing. It was always good, but again, I can never sit for more than 20 minutes and draw. So I am actually proud of myself for sitting this long to draw this sucker. I think I took one break. It was during one of those little fade ins and outs. I think I took one break, but I was in flow state, man. I was loving this. It turned out better than I thought, and I just kept going. So those would have been the points where I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, so I got to go shoot noobs now. I got to go do snipers. It's not happening. So now it's just, actually, it's really quiet in here. A lot of times when I draw, I'll have stuff playing in the background. So if I'm drawing, like movies, almost on mute. It's just really, really low. But I'll try to put in the genre of the subject matter that I'm drawing. So like with this one, I would have on Jurassic Park or something. And for this particular drawing, I think I had on some crime shows. I don't know why. I think it was the ID channel. I like the ID channel, by the way. Comment below if you like watching crime shows while drawing. It's weird, right? Why do we do that? Why do we do that as people? Of all the things we could watch, we just turn on like forensic files. And we'll just binge watch 5 of them about suicide and I don't know, cannibalistic killers and all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't know why we do that. But anyway, I guess it's fun. Adding some shading in here. I don't go too far though. I think the top of the fin is as far as I go. Because I'm really liking the head area and I just want to stick with the head. If you are learning something, please comment below. I love reading the comments. I get some comments that are very heartwarming, and I just don't know how to answer a lot of them. You know, a lot of times we as human beings need that extra spark, and drawing is that spark. It's always been the spark for me, no matter what kind of mood I'm in. There's always 2 things that I could count on, regardless of how I was feeling. And that is drawing, and that is going to the gym. Because drawing has always been my go-to, like my outlet for all the thoughts that I have in my head. And then the gym has always been my stress outlet for the things that I need to do physically, just to feel tired and feel accomplished so I can, get back to it. And these 2 things together, man, we're talking about a deadly combo. Deadly combo. I actually haven't talked about that in a long time on this channel, and that is just taking care of yourself when you're drawing. Well, no, taking care of yourself as an artist. Okay, because we don't do that. A lot of times we don't take care of ourselves, and it could be in the middle of the summer, and you don't need to be in on a Saturday morning. You don't need to be freelancing on the Saturday morning unless a deadline's happening. Just go outside, just breathe in the air, take a walk. So what I like doing, and this is my daily routine. This is kind of going off on the a little side note here, but hopefully this helps at least somebody listening. If you're wondering about how to take care of yourself physically so that you can perform optimally as a human being and draw and learn and stuff. I get up at 5 every morning. Like if I have my kids during the week, I still get up at 5. Regardless if I have them and it's daycare or not, I go to the gym at 7 a.m. That's the first thing I do. I don't answer emails. I don't argue with people online. I don't go on Discord. I don't do any of that crap. Well, it's not crap. It's important later in the day. But nope, I wake up and I stretch, have a glass of water, take my pre-workout because I do not drink coffee. I think it's gross. And I know, it's weird, right? Go work out, and that sets me up for the day. So if you guys are sleeping in till 10 a.m., 11 a.m., slap yourself. Like, what are you doing? Don't do that. I used to do that, and it threw me off because I was under the assumption that by staying up super late, I actually drew better at night. Well, here's the thing. My imagination was going haywire at night for a good thing, but the accuracy in which I was painting and drawing things was not good because I was exhausted. And then I would wake up super late and wasn't working out too well. So wake up early, get your routines. You actually perform better with a routine. I mentor people and I go over morning, afternoon, evening schedules. Okay, and you got to stick to that schedule because you have to optimally set yourself up for success. All right? And you got to keep your body in check too. So if you eat crappy food, you're going to perform crappy throughout the day. Just period. So make sure you're eating right. Stay away from a lot of heavy carbs. I try my best to stay away from bread and cereal. It's good stuff. Hey, I love avocado toast. Okay, but that's the only bread I'll have throughout the day. So if you find yourself eating a lot of bread, then you're having the 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. sleepies, and you want to take a nap, but you're in the office somewhere and you can't do it. So what do? You load up on more caffeine. That'll make you crash at 4:30 or 5, and then you don't want to do anything in the evening. You just want to go home and you want to sit and watch Netflix and not get your work done. Okay, it's a vicious, vicious cycle. Plus, you're not living in a caloric deficit, so you're actually gaining weight. And then you get depressed, and depression causes you not to want to draw. Okay, you see where I'm getting at, guys? So you got to take care of yourself. Okay, you can tell I love health. I care about all of you. I want you guys to take care of yourselves. Okay, and also watch me draw while I just talk about life. But take it however you want. And here, as I've been talking, hopefully you've been watching me start to layer in smaller details that grow. So the reason why I like sketching on smooth paper and not rough paper is that the shading will be way, way better. Look at the paper that you guys are using right now. Is it rough? Are you accidentally sketching on watercolor paper? Because if it's rough and it's very toothy, it doesn't matter how well you think that you're shading, it's going to look like you're not shading very well because the individual ridges in the paper are not being filled by the graphite. Why? Because they look like tiny mountains if you look at it in a microscope. So get the smooth paper. This is why I stick with moleskin. All these lines that I'm putting down right now, the lines look clean, they look swift, and they look smooth because I'm keeping my hand pressure light. I'm not gripping my pencil very hard. Notice how I'm not gripping it at the very, very end either, because that makes me want to do details. But I'm just laying these lines down on smooth paper, and it feels good too. It feels good when you sketch on smooth paper. It really, really does. So some things that I want to mention is I've run a private mentorship. I take in all skill levels. Doesn't matter if you are a complete noob and you've never drawn before in your life and you want to know how to draw a stick figure, talk to me. If you're a novice, you've been drawing for a little bit, but you want to start getting into the fundamentals, shading, like values, perspective, lighting, all of that. Okay, talk to me. If you're more advanced and you feel like you've plateaued, okay, I'll help you break through that plateau. And if you're really good, but you feel like you've kind of missed the boat on some of the younger years, foundations, perspective, guys, I've taught veterans before that on a technical level, they're amazing. Like shading and values and designs that you wouldn't believe. But their perspective wasn't good. So if you want to revisit some older areas that you feel like you want to get good at, let's do it. Also, if you're a 100% character designer, but you can't really do creatures, or better yet, let's say you're a hard surface artist. You only are used to drawing mechs and vehicles and props and guns, but you can't draw people and you can't draw creatures. Come talk to me. My email is bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. Check the links in the description of this video. All right. I have several in there. There's a studio I work for, I do freelance for, Nick's Studio. We have an amazing, amazing tabletop game called Havoc, Gen Zero. So definitely check that out. There I go. Turned in the sketchbook. But guess what I did? That pencil is kept at the same angle that I've been drawing this whole thing for for 45 minutes now. Okay, and then I just turn it back. So now you can see the different primary and secondary and tertiary values in there. Dark, medium, light. Blending in some areas that if it were swimming in the water, the water would be skewing some of the shadows. Maybe some dust or ocean floor or seabed floor got disrupted, and all of the, it's basically just going everywhere, including the creature. I've seen enough of those videos where people go caving underwater and they kick up all the soot, and it is so dangerous. I don't know how people do that. It's terrifying. Just trying to find little areas in here where I can put in some more values. Try to figure out the shape of that neck. Like this creature's trapezius muscles are different than a human's, obviously. So I gotta go right in there by that mouth crease and darken up that neck muscle right in there and make it look like it's an indent. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, email. I also teach creature design for film and games at the Computer Graphics Master Academy, and I've been teaching there online for 8 years now. And it is a full 8-week creature design course. And we keep it traditional. You can sketch digitally, you can, but we keep it simple, folks. So we reference gather, that's a skill. We thumbnail, that's a skill. And then we worry about stance, functional features, anatomy, including drawing the skull of your creature as well as the musculature. And then we worry about the portrait, and we worry about final presentations. So I take you through the very, very foundation of a good creature design. And you can apply those skills to characters as well. But I also do invite you to comment below. Tell me what you're working on. If you want to show us what you have been drawing while watching this video, join our Discord, which is the next thing that I want to talk about. Our Creature Design Workshop Discord, which, by the way, you do not have to be a creature designer to join. It is free to join the Discord. It's a bustling community. Dozens and dozens of people join per day, and it's so much fun there. We have personal sketchbook threads where you can just post your doodles and tell us about your trials and tribulations, your wins, your losses, what frustrates you about art and drawing and trying to get better. We're all there to learn how to get better. Okay, this is why I have this channel. Okay, 2 years ago, I can't believe 2 years ago, I started the channel back up after it was sitting for literally years. I try my best to just give you guys free content, and hopefully somebody's learning something out there. I love the comments where I am able to resurrect that old drawing spark that has not been, used in years and decades. Okay, that's such an awesome thing, and I've heard some really great stories there. So do this every day, folks. If you can't draw every day, try to allot some time to where you're at least putting in a good 30 minutes or so. an hour preferably. If you can draw for multiple hours during the day and you got that time, wonderful. First thing I'm going to tell you to learn how to draw is trees, rocks, and roots. Why that combo? Of all the things that I would teach you how to draw, why that combo? Well, it's because you learn organics, you learn texture, and you also learn nature's hard surface, which is rocks. Okay, and you go to the local park if you can, and you try to draw those things from life as best you can. So it really, really does work. Okay, we are kind of nearing the end here. So hopefully you guys have been learning something as you've been drawing along with me and listening to me. So again, I invite you all to check the links in the description below and comment. Let me know what you are working on. If you've had any recent breakthroughs in your artwork. I love drawing. I have loved drawing ever since I was 4 years old, and I'm not going to stop, ever. So hopefully you guys share that same sentiment. And if you don't, but you're starting to really feel something about art and you want to pursue this, it's a wonderful journey. It is a wonderful journey. It's rewarding. It's relaxing. You get to feel a sense of true accomplishment because you are physically making something that could change somebody's life. Thank you. Now you can see a little fly through here as I float over this sketchbook. I'm going to get better at this, guys. You can see how the head expanded vertically. That's just because, it's directly above the paper now. So there we have it, folks. Thanks again. And I'll see you next time. Peace out.